Embrace the silent stare. Let's be honest. Some people love testing your boundaries. They interrupt, make passive-aggressive remarks, or act like your time and feelings are optional. And somehow you're expected to smile and let it slide. Not anymore. If you're tired of dealing with people who don't respect you, this is your wake-up call. Today we're diving into powerful, sometimes uncomfortable ways to handle disrespect without losing your cool and without sacrificing your self-respect. Let's begin with one of the boldest tools you can use, the silent stare. Now you might be thinking, really just staring? Yes, trust me, it works. When someone is being rude or openly disrespectful, nothing catches them off guard like a long, calm, and completely unbothered stare. Here's why. People who disrespect others are usually fishing for a reaction. They want you to stammer, get flustered, or lash out. They're trying to pull you into their drama to make you question yourself or to provoke an emotional response. But when you simply look at them, no words, no facial expression, everything shifts. The power dynamic flips. I understand this might sound passive-aggressive at first, but stay with me. There's something deeply unsettling about someone who doesn't give the expected reaction. When you hold a calm, steady gaze, you're silently saying, "I'm not playing this game with you." It's one of the clearest, most powerful ways to say no without speaking a word. Let me give you an example. I was once in a meeting where this one guy kept interrupting me. Every time I spoke, he would cut me off like it was his personal mission to dominate the room. You know the type, loud, overconfident, convinced that everyone is there to admire his opinions. I tried being polite. I tried speaking over him once or twice, but he wouldn't let up. So I changed my approach. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and just stared at him. No blinking, no expression. 5 full seconds of silence. I didn't say a single word. You could feel the tension in the room shift. The best part. Other people started looking at him too, waiting to see what he'd do. And guess what? He stumbled over his words, looked away, and didn't interrupt me again for the rest of the meeting. After that day, he actually started treating me with more respect, as if he finally realized I wasn't someone he could bulldoze. That silent stare did more than words ever could. It's more than just a clever tactic. It's a statement. When you embrace the silent stare, you're not only asserting control in that moment, you're reminding both yourself and the other person that you don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't need to dance to someone else's tune or prove your worth to someone who doesn't value it. Too often we feel the need to defend ourselves when someone disrespects us. We try to explain or reason, or worse, we laugh it off to avoid creating tension. But the silent stare offers another option. It says, I am calm, grounded, and fully in control of myself. It's about standing your ground with quiet strength. Here's the thing. People who are used to getting away with disrespect rarely face real consequences. Most of the time, they're never directly called out. When you respond with a steady, unwavering stare, it acts like a mirror. They're suddenly forced to face their own behavior. And most people don't like what they see. That's why this technique works so well. It's not about confrontation, it's about awareness. When you choose silence over reaction, you're not showing weakness. You're showing mastery of yourself. I used to be the type of person who would nervously laugh off rude comments or try to over-explain when someone questioned my choices. But every time I did, I felt drained. I felt like I was giving away pieces of my energy just to maintain peace. Learning to look someone in the eye and let the silence do the talking was a game changer. It felt like a quiet act of defiance, a strong and clear declaration of self-respect. So the next time someone crosses the line, don't feel pressured to speak. Just try the silent stare. Let them feel the full weight of your calm. You'll be surprised by how uncomfortable it makes them and how empowered it makes you feel. That stare says more than 1,000 words. It says, I respect myself too much to engage with your nonsense. And that's a message worth sending every time. Embrace silence as your answer. Here's a secret weapon that's often overlooked: silence. When someone disrespects you, one of the most powerful responses is no response at all. That may sound passive, like you're letting them get away with it, but it's the exact opposite. Silence is not weakness. It is a choice, and in many situations, it's the boldest, most commanding statement you can make. Disrespectful people are almost always looking for a reaction. They want to provoke you, pull you into an argument, or shake your sense of confidence. They want to see you flinch, get defensive, or explain yourself. But when you don't give them that reaction, when you simply let their words hang in the air and respond with nothing, the power shifts immediately. Silence forces them to face themselves. It removes the emotional reward they were hoping for. Most people are uncomfortable with a silence, especially when they're expecting drama. When you stay silent, you're letting them sit alone with their words. And that silence, it's louder than anything you could have said. I remember being in a conversation with someone who loved to throw subtle insults masked as jokes. You know, the kind of person always making little digs and calling it humor. One day he said something about my work that was clearly meant to trigger me. Normally I would have responded. I might have tried to explain myself or fire back with a comment of my own. But this time I didn't. I just looked at him. I raised an eyebrow and stayed completely silent. I let his words linger in the space between us, and I didn't rescue him from the awkwardness. He looked around, then looked down, and finally mumbled something before moving on. That moment was a turning point. He never tried that again. That's the power of silence. It starves disrespect of the attention it feeds on. It denies the offender what they want most, your emotional energy. When you choose silence, you're also choosing yourself. You're saying, I value my peace more than your opinion. That's not just empowering, it's transformative. Too often we feel pressured to explain, to defend our decisions, or to prove our worth to people who have no real interest in understanding us. But when you choose not to engage, you're stepping out of their control. You're setting the standard for how you expect to be treated. Think of silence as a filter. It protects your inner world by keeping out the noise and negativity others try to dump on you. The more you practice it, the stronger your boundaries become. You stop giving people access to your emotions. You stop allowing others to dictate your mood or your mindset. I'll be honest, learning to use silence wasn't easy for me. I used to think that if I didn't respond, I'd look weak or passive. But over time, I noticed a pattern. Every time I responded to someone who disrespected me, I felt worse afterward. I felt drained, frustrated, and off balance. But when I chose silence instead, I felt stronger. I felt in control. I had more peace, more clarity, and more self-respect. That's when I realized silence wasn't me giving up. It was me taking back my power. It was me saying I'm not available for this nonsense. So here's my challenge to you. The next time someone disrespects you, don't rush to defend yourself. Don't explain. Don't argue. Instead, take a breath, hold their gaze, and say absolutely nothing. Let your silence speak. Let it fill the room. Let it make them uncomfortable. Because the truth is, silence reveals more than any comeback ever could. It shows you're not here to play games. You're not here to entertain disrespect. And most of all, you're not going to let someone else's bad behavior shake your peace. Silence, when used with intention, is power. Learn to use it, and you'll never feel powerless again. Stop explaining your choices. Let's get straight to the point. You need to stop explaining your choices. Seriously, think about how often you make a decision, something that feels right for you, only to have someone immediately ask, why did you do that? Or why didn't you just... People seem to think they're entitled to an explanation for every move you make. But here's the honest truth, they're not. Your decisions are your own, and you don't owe anyone a detailed breakdown of why you live your life the way you do. It might sound bold, but more often than not, people who question your choices are not trying to understand you. They're trying to judge you. They want to poke holes in your logic, make you second-guess yourself, or compare your path to theirs. And the more you explain, the more power you give away. Let's take a deeper look. Why do people feel so entitled to your reasoning in the first place? Most of the time, it's because your decisions challenge their worldview. Maybe you're doing something they don't have the courage to do. Maybe your choice highlights their own dissatisfaction. And when that happens, they try to reel you back into their comfort zone. But just because they're uncomfortable doesn't mean you're responsible for making them feel better. Your life is not a public service announcement. You don't need to reassure people who have no intention of truly supporting you. I remember when I decided to change careers. I left a stable traditional job to pursue something that felt more aligned with my passion. It came with more risk, less certainty, and a lot of raised eyebrows. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, why would you leave a good job, or how are you going to make that work? At first, I answered them. I laid out my reasons, talked about my vision, my goals, and all the planning I had done. But no matter what I said, it never seemed to satisfy anyone. They kept questioning, kept challenging, and it started to wear me down. It made me feel like I had to constantly defend my own life. Then one day someone asked me that same question, and I just said, because I wanted to. No long explanation, no justification, just the truth. And in that moment, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. The silence that followed was powerful. They didn't know how to respond, and eventually they stopped asking. That's when I realized the beauty of not explaining yourself. It's not about being rude or dismissive. It's about freedom. It's about standing in your own truth and knowing that your decisions are enough simply because you made them. When you stop explaining yourself, you send a clear message. You're letting people know that your life is not up for debate. You're not seeking validation or permission. You've made your choice, and that's all there is to it. This shift will change the way you move through the world. You'll spend less time overthinking, less time trying to please others, and more time actually living. Confidence grows when you stop chasing approval. You begin to trust yourself more, and others will begin to respect that trust too. Here's my challenge to you. The next time someone questions your decision, resist the urge to go into explanation mode. Just say, because it felt right for me, or simply, because I wanted to. Then stop. Let the silence do the rest. You don't need anyone's stamp of approval. Your choices are valid. Your path is yours. And the moment you stop explaining is the moment you step fully into your power. Keep your distance. Let's be honest. Sometimes the best and most respectful way to handle people who continually disrespect you is to simply keep your distance. It might sound harsh or even cold, but it is one of the healthiest decisions you can make for your peace of mind. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. If someone consistently crosses your boundaries, belittles your efforts, or drains your energy, stepping back is not just a good idea. It is necessary. Creating distance does not mean you hate them. It does not mean you are holding a grudge. It simply means you value yourself enough to protect your energy and peace. Keeping your distance is not about ignoring others. It is about being intentional with your time and emotional investment. Imagine your life as a private event with limited access. Not everyone should have a VIP pass. If someone continuously disrespects you, why would you give them unrestricted access to your mind and emotions? It is okay to step back. In fact, it is one of the most powerful moves you can make. Distance gives you the clarity to see people and situations for what they really are without the fog of guilt, obligation, or emotional manipulation. When you keep disrespectful people close, it is like inviting them to an all-you-can-eat buffet of your time, attention, and mental space. They take, criticize, and judge, and then take some more. Before long, you are left feeling anxious, emotionally drained, and off balance. And you wonder why you feel so heavy. Giving yourself permission to take a step back is an act of self-respect. You are choosing to preserve your peace and prioritize your mental well-being. That is not selfish, that is wisdom. I remember a friend I used to hang out with regularly. At first, I thought the occasional snide comment or sarcastic jab was just part of their personality. I brushed it off thinking maybe I was being too sensitive. But over time, I realized I was constantly walking on eggshells. Every hangout came with a side of subtle put-downs. It started affecting my confidence, my mood, and even how I viewed myself. Eventually, I stopped making excuses. I did not have a dramatic confrontation. I did not send a long message explaining how I felt. I just started seeing them less. What used to be weekly meetups turned into once a month and eventually not at all. And you know what happened? I felt lighter, freer. In that space, I realized how toxic that connection had been. Distancing myself gave me the room to reflect and the clarity to understand that I deserve better. Better friendships, better energy, better respect. People might try to guilt you for creating distance. They might say things like, but they're family or you've known them for years. And yes, letting go or pulling back can feel uncomfortable, especially if you have a history with someone. But history does not excuse disrespect. Loyalty to others should never come at the cost of loyalty to yourself. Society often teaches us to be nice, forgiving, and endlessly available. But what it rarely teaches is the importance of boundaries and self-preservation. You are not here to be someone's emotional punching bag. You are not responsible for constantly absorbing someone else's negativity. Sometimes the most powerful way to say enough is not through confrontation. It is through distance. You quietly step back. You protect your peace. You reclaim your energy. And you send a message without saying a word. I no longer choose to participate in this dynamic. Keeping your distance also allows you to focus on the people who do uplift you. The more time you spend around those who respect and support you, the more you grow into the person you were meant to be. And the less time you spend around those who tear you down, the more power you take away from their influence. I used to feel guilty for stepping away from people who hurt me, even unintentionally. I worried about how they would perceive it. I wondered if I was being too harsh. But with time, I realized that putting myself first was not cruelty, it was clarity. And every time I created distance from someone who didn't respect me, I got closer to the peace and confidence I had been chasing. So here's your challenge. Take a moment to think about the people in your life who constantly disrespects you, drains you, or makes you second guess yourself. Then ask yourself a simple but powerful question. Do they truly deserve this much access to me? You do not have to announce your decision. You do not owe anyone an explanation. Just start stepping back. Bit by bit, watch what changes when you choose peace over proximity. Hold your head high. Let's talk about something simple but powerful, holding your head high. It may sound like old school advice, maybe even a little cliche, but it holds more power than most people realize, especially when you are dealing with disrespect. When someone tries to belittle you, they are not just throwing out random negativity, they are trying to shrink you. They want you to question yourself, to lower your gaze, and to walk away feeling smaller than you were before. But when you stand tall and hold your head high, you send a message loud and clear. I know who I am and nothing you say is going to change that. Confidence. Real confidence is unsettling to people who thrive on disrespect. Why? Because they rely on your doubt to feel powerful. They want their words to sting, their actions to shake you. But when you refuse to react, when you walk with calm, quiet pride, it disarms them. It throws off their entire game. I remember a time when I regularly interacted with someone who always found a way to sneak in an insult. It was usually disguised as a joke, one of those comments that makes everyone laugh while making you feel small. At first, I tried brushing it off. I smiled. I kept the peace. But deep down, it bothered me. It made me question myself and dread being around them. Then I decided I was done. I stopped giving them that satisfaction. I began showing up with my head held high, shoulders back, and calm in my expression. Every time they made one of those subtle jabs, I looked them in the eye, smiled, and kept moving forward like it meant nothing to me. And something interesting happened. Their behavior started to change. The comments faded. The smirks lost their edge. It was as if my self-assurance had created a shield that their words could not penetrate. That's the power of presence. When you hold your head high, you show that you are not easily shaken. You communicate strength without needing to speak a word. People who are used to manipulating others through insecurity do not know how to handle that. But let's be honest, confidence can make you a target. Society does not always welcome people who are unapologetically sure of themselves, especially when you refuse to shrink, to apologize for your existence, or to conform to someone else's image of who you should be. That is what makes this practice so powerful. Holding your head high is not just about posture. It is a daily decision to walk in your truth, to carry yourself as someone who knows their worth, to believe even in moments of doubt that you deserve respect, whether or not others choose to give it. Self-worth is not something you wait for others to hand you. It is something you claim. And when you walk with your head high, you are declaring, I belong here. I am enough. I don't need your approval to know who I am. This mindset can transform your entire experience. You stop entering rooms wondering if you fit in. You stop engaging with people who make you feel like you have to prove yourself. Instead, you stand tall, fully aware that you have nothing to prove and nothing to hide. I will be honest, this did not come naturally to me. I used to shrink when people criticized me. I avoided eye contact. I softened my voice. I hoped that if I made myself small enough, the judgment would pass over me. But it never did. It only made people feel more entitled to treat me that way. Everything changed when I decided to stand tall, regardless of how others behaved. It was not about arrogance. It was about self-respect. Every time I held my head high, I felt stronger, more whole, more like the version of myself I had always wanted to be. So here is your challenge. The next time you feel disrespected, don't react with anger or defensiveness. Instead, take a breath, lift your head, meet their gaze with calm. Let your body speak for you. Because when you hold your head high, you are doing more than standing up straight. You are standing in your power, You are telling the world and yourself that you are not here to be diminished. Respect starts with you, and the more you carry yourself with confidence and dignity, the less space there is for anyone else's disrespect to land. So walk tall, stay grounded, and never let someone else's opinion make you forget your worth. In your current life, one of the most powerful things you can do is protect your peace by setting clear, quiet boundaries. You do not need to respond to every rude comment, explain every choice, or keep toxic people close out of guilt. Instead, embrace silence as a strength. When someone disrespects you, hold their gaze with calm stillness and say nothing. Let your silence speak louder than any argument ever could. Start removing people from your inner circle who drain your energy or make you question your worth. Not everyone deserves access to your life, especially those who can't respect it. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to live. Make decisions that feel right to you and let confidence replace the need for approval. Most importantly, carry yourself with quiet strength. Hold your head high even when others try to bring you down. Walk into every room like you belong there because you do. Remember, respect starts with how you treat yourself. When you begin honoring your own time, energy, and boundaries, others will either rise to meet your standard or fall away. And either way, you win.